Let's bring in former Obama administration official Krish Vignarajah. And joining Krish, we have Kelly Jane Torrance, a Canadian, a conservative who sits on the editorial board of the New York Post. So Kelly, I would really like to start with you because I'd like to get your reaction to Donald Trump's statement earlier today. As you know, I'm sure you're watching, he continued to make claims of voter fraud. He continued to say a lot of stuff without evidence. What went through you? Can you walk me through what went through you when you heard it?
Yeah, Donald Trump is not the best sometimes at actually stating his own case. There are actually many cases that I've seen that there are questions about the vote and how it's been counted, how it's been dealt with. Donald Trump does not help matters when he really says that the whole election is in doubt, that the whole process is in doubt. There are some small cases that people have pointed out. I mean, we had, numbers coming out of Michigan where overnight they found, 139,000, 428, whatever it was, votes for Biden, 0 for Trump. That was later said to be a typo. So there are things like that that do look concerning, but it's not an overwhelming amount of those sorts of things. And to, say that this is a fraudulent election, not helpful. But at the same time, I found that people's reaction to that, the idea that Donald Trump is undermining the whole election and the rule of law by wanting, the courts to look at it. Every candidate would want the courts to look at it. And Joe Biden, even before the election, also lawyered up because they suspected there could be a close election and it could go down to legal issues. So this is not something surprising. We've seen in many cases. And, as your reporter said, when the margins are so small in some of these places, they do have a legal right to ask for a recount. So I think people are exaggerating a little. Donald Trump saying that he has some doubts about some of the counts and wanting the courts to look at it. It is not Donald Trump saying, I'm not leaving office, you can't get rid of me. He was certainly somber at his press conference, and I think that does show that he is a little worried about the results, and he's looking to lawyers.
Yeah, I think I certainly hear you. I think saying he had doubts is perhaps more generous than he was with some of the words he was using. He was strong enough with his falsehoods that some of the networks had to cut away. And I'm curious, Krish, we are seeing in this process of trying to discredit the votes, like the mail-in ballots, which he voted by mail, incidentally. A lot of these lawsuits, not all, but a lot of these lawsuits look like they have been thrown out. If Biden manages to hit the 270, and we don't know if that will happen, is there any way you think for Donald Trump to actually litigate his way out of a defeat?
I don't think so. As you just described, the lawsuits that have been filed thus far have been largely unsuccessful. There is no culpable claim that we've seen presented thus far, or evidence that the president or his campaign have referred to suggest that there is any validity in a substantial way that would suggest that any of the state determinations would be overturned. So I think, the strategy seems to be to litigate this in the kind of the public courtroom. But beyond mobilizing the mob of Trump supporters, I don't think he's going to get very far.
So, Kelly, it's interesting watching some of these margins, as you say, in so many places are so tight. No matter what happens, it just exposes this fracture point in the country. And I'm curious, for either team, Trump or Biden, how on earth do you govern after this?
That's a great question, Adrienne. And I don't think it's helpful when you have so many pundits and politicians on the Democratic side calling nearly half the country racist. You had an article in the New York Times that said minorities voting for Trump proves white supremacy because they're standing with their oppressors. 538, which is one of the most well-regarded, election analyst sites in the United States, their top political writer called Trump voters racist. I don't think that's helpful, and I don't think that's wise for the Democrats. If they want to govern for all of America and they want to try to persuade those voters so they don't have such a close election in the future, I don't think calling them racist is helpful. And actually, Trump did better in every demographic group in 2020 as opposed to 2016, except for white men. That was the only group he actually lost ground on. He gained 3 points in black men and, 4 points in black men and women. He gained 3 points in Hispanic men and women, the exit polls show, and I suspect the Hispanic number will turn out to be higher. The Republicans actually took 2 House seats from the Democrats thanks to Hispanic turnout. The idea that people are only voting for Donald Trump because they're racist is not a way to heal any divisions and to try to bring people together. People are voting for Trump for various reasons. A lot of them are voting for him because they like his policies. And so, going forward, governing, calling half the country racist is not helpful. And it does show that Joe Biden's policies were not convincing to a lot of people. And so there's a lot of work to be done. And I do worry that even just the last few days, what we've seen before the election's even decided has really divided things further.
All right, Krish and Kelly, I could listen to you all day. We can't, though. Thank you for your time tonight. I have no doubt we will speak with you again very soon.